Hello there, respected viewers. I'm George from Ireland. So this video is about Princess Diana asking whether she was murdered or not, because one of my countless faithful fans in Australia has requested that I make a video on this very topic. So who was Princess Diana? Because it's so long ago now, it's 22 years since her death. There'll be a lot of people who don't know who she was. Well, she's best known for being married to Prince Charles. Prince Charles is better known as the Prince of Wales. Therefore, Diana was the Princess of Wales. Okay, so we all know Elizabeth II. She's the Queen of the United Kingdom, and the eldest son of the monarch traditionally has the title Prince of Wales. Therefore, his wife is Princess of Wales. So Diana was born in July 1961 in the United Kingdom. Her father was Earl Spencer. Earl not being a boy's name, but Earl is a noble title. So Earl Spencer was quite acceptable to call him Lord Spencer. So Diana grew up as Lady Diana Spencer, not Miss Diana Spencer. So she's from a very wealthy aristocratic family, a distant descendant of King Charles II. Therefore, she was a very distant cousin of Prince Charles, whom she eventually married, because they had a common ancestor in the 1660s. Anyway, she had two older sisters. She had one younger brother. She lamented I was supposed to be a boy, so she was always feeling very sorry for herself. Her parents had a fairly messy divorce when she was quite small. Bear in mind that in the 60s, divorce was less common than it is now. It was still highly controversial. You may have heard of Royal Ascot, as in where people watch horse races in England in June, just to the west of London. And you couldn't get into the royal enclosure at Ascot Racecourse if you'd been divorced. Hello, Watkin. I tweeted you it a couple of times on Twitter. Was wondering if you'd seen them. No, I haven't been onto Twitter for a while, Watkin, but keep it going. I hope you're disseminating the word about my splendid channel. Most appreciative of your valiant efforts. So back to Lady Diana Spencer. There was no great shakes academically, went to Westheath School, if I got that right, and she left at 16 and went off to a finishing school in Switzerland, which no longer exists. Finishing school, that was meant to be for young ladies from very pucker families, and they would learn deportment, how to walk, how to get out of a car in a miniskirt without showing her knickers, if indeed she is wearing something as daring as that, a bit about makeup and hair, how to do it stylishly, tastefully, not tardily, not overdone, you know, laying a table for a dinner party. Not that she would be laying the table, but she had to be able to supervise her servants and see how they got it right. Not very academic. They'd learn a little bit of French and things like that. How to laugh politely at an unfunny joke if you're at a country house weekend. These are essential life skills. So she left there after a year, and then she worked in a very high-end nursery in London. Her parents bought her a flat in Earl's Court when she was for her 18th birthday. Earl's Court, also known as Kangaroo Valley, for all the Australians used to live there, that area of London. Her elder sister had briefly been associated with Prince Charles, and Prince Charles, well, in 1978 he turned 30. His parents were saying, "Come on, Charlie boy, it's time for you to settle down. You've sown your wild oats." Supposedly, when he was at Trinity College, Cambridge, Prince Charles lost his virginity to the daughter of the Chilean ambassador. I don't know if that's true or not. The young woman whom he desired most, Camilla Shand, well, he was unsure to propose to her because he's a very young man. A lot of guys would be a bit afraid of commitment, but for him it's a much more big deal. Marriage really has got to be for life. And that's one of the downsides of being a prince or princess. If you screw up, everybody's going to know, because there's such intense media focus on you. And also, as a royal, being married is not just about you, it's about the kingdom. You have a duty to the public to marry someone suitable, someone who's not going to be tendentious, who's not going to embarrass you. The royal family must not be left with egg on its face. So got to marry her, and he was in the Royal Navy. He went away to the Caribbean for 6 months. He came back, and Camilla Shand was engaged to Andrew Parker Bowles, this cavalry officer whom she later married. So Camilla Shand became known as Camilla Parker Bowles, went on to have a son and a daughter. Her son was actually in my house at school, but he left the term before I arrived. So that was real love of his life. He was also involved with this Australian woman, I can't remember her name, who was living in London. Well, she arrived in the 70s and lived there ever since. But she died about 15 years ago. Anyway, her name will come back to me. So Prince of Wales, who was having an affair with married women a bit, they often thought actually more suitable because if she conceived a baby, this baby would be presumed to be the child of her husband and not his. So another impetus for him to really settle down was his great uncle, Lord Mountbatten, was murdered by the IRA in August 1979, and he was very close to him. Remember, his paternal grandfather, King George VI, died when the Prince of Wales was 3.5. His other grandfather, King Andrew of Greece, well, he died before Prince Charles was ever born. So his granduncle, Lord Mountbatten, was one of his closest to, was really his surrogate grandfather, and that blow hit him very hard. He then proposed to, I think it was his second cousin once removed, as in a relative via Lord Mountbatten, but she turned him down shortly after that death. So he's casting around for a suitable candidate. He had met Princess Diana when she was 16. Remember, he is 12.5 years older than her. But anyway, some people thought that Princess Diana would be suitable to marry Prince Andrew. That's Prince Charles' younger brother, because they're only 1 year apart, Prince Andrew and Lady Diana Spencer. But that didn't happen. So then, I'm not sure how they met again when she was 18, but some sort of relationship formed. Because he's a bit of a young fogey, the Prince of Wales, a bit of a fuddy-duddy. I'm not saying that's bad, that's his personality, that makes him happy. He liked to do his carousing at country house weekends, was not an urban person. Although he liked art galleries and architecture, he was not au fait with like the music scene or people who are more modern or trendy or anything like that. And Lawrence van der Post, that South African novelist, seemed to be his intellectual guru. Anyway, so the royal family go to Balmoral in Scotland every August, their private retreat. Been going there since 1861, when Queen Victoria purchased that estate to help her get over the death of her husband, Prince Albert. So then he'd been seen with Princess Anne a little bit in May 1980. August 1981, she's up there at Balmoral, and of course the press pack are there, the paparazzi are snapping them. What, is this the one? Because speculation was rife. Any woman he looked at, is he about to propose to her? And the relationship was confirmed. Then November 1980, the announcement came out that he was engaged to her. I won't tell the whole story, I've told it elsewhere. So he married her, and apparently she was having cold feet about the wedding in the run-up to July 1981, when they got married in the wedding of the millennium. What a fairy tale wedding it was. But her sister said, your face on the tea towels, it's too late now, Dutch. Ditch, D-I-C-H, I don't know how to pronounce it, Ditch, Dutch, whatever. Apparently that was her nickname in the family. You can listen to the Diana Gate tapes when she recounts the whole plaintive tale herself. So she had just turned 20 when she got married. So from forming a relationship to marrying him was just over a year. Not that uncommon at the time. We're talking early 80s. And she'd never had a boyfriend, was a presumable virgin and therefore a suitable candidate. There was no law which said a royal bride must be a virgin. But this was a different era, that was understood, it was going to be uncontroversial. Who else was he to marry? Princes usually married princesses. Is it true that Anna's real father was James Goldsmith? I never heard that one before, Full Swing. I don't think so, because her mother, I can't remember her name now, she got divorced, went off and married someone else. I don't think she had an affair with Sir James Goldsmith, and she survived Princess Diana by some years. And then obviously Princess Diana's father, Lord Spencer, got married to someone named Rain, and his children from his first marriage, including Diana, called their stepmother Acid Rain. You know, Rain, that name, R-A-I-N-E. Yes, she did. Well, you know more about her than I do. So Princess Diana, it was, 11 months after her wedding, she was delivered of a bonny baby boy, that's Prince William, and then 2 years after that, again, Prince Harry hatched, and there we have it. Obviously she was having an affair with, with Captain James Hewitt, a cavalry officer, but apparently that only began in the late 80s. So Prince Harry was born in 84, sometime after that. Hello, Diane Malloy. Other people say, oh no, that's not true, because the affair began before that. And I was at a meeting when James Hewitt was there, this is in the year 2000, and he was asked, are you Prince Harry's father? He said, I'm not sure. Highly controversial, but actually I don't think that he is. I think it began later on. I know it's hilarious to put about that rumour. The thing is, he's actually 1 year younger than Princess Diana. No reason why he couldn't have been having an affair with her in 1983. Prince Harry's born in September 1984, or it could have been very early 84. when that was happening, but I don't think so. And it wouldn't be that difficult to figure out to see whether it's even possible. Look at the logistics. He was in the army. Where was he posted to? If he was posted to Belize or Hong Kong or something at the relevant time, then clearly that would have been geographically impossible. Anyway, so her marriage is increasingly breaking down in the late 1980s, and they found it more and more difficult to conceal their hostility and disdain for each other. And Princess Diana said before she even got married, well, things were getting wrong, even before she even got engaged. She said he proposed to her. First of all, he'd asked her father, Lord Spencer, may I ask your daughter to marry me? You might say, what? Why are you doing that? But, you know, royal families are traditional. They are old-fashioned. He was particularly a bit of a stick in the mud, or how would you put it, starchy, and trying to do things by the book, the proper way. He's a remarkable likeness to Hewitt. Well, I don't think it's that similar to Hewitt. He does look very like his grandfather, Prince Philip. The other thing is she was so young, 19, and a particularly naive 19-year-old, that it might be a good idea to speak to her father. Is this the right time? Father might say it's a really bad idea, don't. She's got to take on these immense responsibilities. But anyway, he proposed to her, said, don't answer right now, I'll give you a fortnight to think about it, because he was going off for a 2-week tour of Australia. So he flew off to Australia. Or no, she flew off to Australia, that was it, on holiday. And then he was phoning her. Well, he was asked the interview, their engagement interview, did you speak to her? He said, well, it was difficult. I'd phone up and I'd say, this is the Prince of Wales. They say, how do we know you're the Prince of Wales? So he hinted that he hadn't actually bothered to speak for 2 weeks. And Princess Diana, in her confessional tapes, says, you know, she didn't really get it during her relationship with him. He might phone her every day for a week, and then for the next 2 weeks he wouldn't bother calling her at all. Then they got engaged, and there they are, famously sitting on that sofa in Buckingham Palace. She's in that sort of midnight blue skirt suit, and then the interviewer says, are you in love? And Princess Diana, there she is, very bashful, fluttering her eyelids like Bambi, saying, of course, says Shy Di, as the press dubbed her. And Prince Charles says, well, whatever in love means. And the thing is, we've got to hand it to him for a candor, but he was perhaps too brutally frank. And so there's even a film about them entitled Whatever Love Means. So I don't think he did love her, but he was more or less doing as he was commanded to by his parents. And he was asked some question about phoning her other, and that was the one when later on he said he'd phoned her, he rubbed his nose and looked away. And that vigorous nose rub is a tell of him deceiving people. So he's not even a very effective liar, but most of the time his honesty is jaw-dropping. So if honesty is a virtue, well, he's got it in spades. Not 100%. Sometimes you've got to be tactful. There are some socially compulsory lies. So listen to this Diana Gate tapes, which she recorded around about 1992. Anyway, and she says in the run-up to the wedding, she happened to find a pair of cufflinks that Prince Charles had with the letters C and C entwined, as in Charles and Camilla. But he could have received those from Camilla years before. That doesn't mean that he was carrying on with Camilla at the time. Camilla Parker Bowles' marriage to her husband Andrew had broken down by the early 80s, and apparently she and her husband were both carrying on with other people. So, and what's the next thing? Princess Diana, she claims, and we just have to go by her word, assuming what she says is veracious, that she overheard her fiancé on the phone to someone, she doesn't know who, but I think I can hazard a guess who it's supposed to be, saying, you know what ever happens, I will always love you. And Princess Diana surmised that that was Camilla on the other end of the line. Prince Charles, in 1979, he purchased a house in Gloucestershire called Highgrove, and that's a 10-minute drive from the Parker Bowles household. Of all the places in the British Isles he could have purchased a residence, that was his country retreat. Anyway, so what's the next thing? So the marriage is really going south then. Spring of 1992, it's revealed that Sarah Ferguson, that's Prince Andrew's wife, she'd been having a liaison with her balding Texan financial advisor, John Bryan, the one who famously kissed Sarah Ferguson's toes outside that swimming pool in France when Sarah Ferguson was sunbathing topless. Sarah Ferguson as in the Duchess of York, because she's married to Prince Andrew, who's Duke of York. So this is not quite the behavior expected of a princess, and that's why John Bryan, for kissing her toes, was known as the abominable toe man. So he went from toe job to no job, and the royal family didn't think it was quite suitable that he remain in their employ. Anyway, so things were going very wrong in Princess Diana's marriage. It was all over the press by about 1992, and that's when she recorded these Diana Gate tapes, Why not? She could go to the media, say anything she wants. No one's going to try and do anything. She and her husband started living separately, sharing the children. No, how embarrassing, as in kissing the toes. Yeah, because some paparazzo with a long lens or long focus lens showed that Sarah Ferguson, as the Duchess of York, was having an affair with her financial advisor. That's some sort of financial advice. I wish my financial advisor gave me that kind of treatment. Hi George, hi Yul, UFO Norway. Are you really an unidentified flying object? So then what? So they clearly had split, and he was having his relationship with Camilla Parker Bowles. And they were still trying to keep it quiet. It was all over the press, but they were never seen in public together. And when she went to his house, apparently she was smuggled in the boot of a car. He would drive over to her place in the middle of the night and tell his security detail to just, I'm fine on my own, guys, stay here, which is a bit of a risk. He could be assassinated going. I'm not, but I've got good proof of UFOs. Well, tell me about it another time. And that was that. So it was sort of an open secret what was happening. And there was that famous interview with Jonathan Dimbleby, or is it David Dimbleby? The younger of the two brothers anyway. When that summer of '95, if I got it right, addressing the Prince of Wales, asking about his relationship with Mrs. Parker Bowles. And Prince Charles said, well, Mrs. Parker Bowles is a very good friend of mine. And he was asked if she was more than a friend of his. And then Dimbleby pointedly asked, sir, were you always faithful to your marriage? And he said, yes, of course, I was faithful to my marriage until it became obvious that it was irretrievably broken down. So there he was obliquely acknowledging that he had committed adultery. He's also a man, he says, he has the greatest respect for Islam. Remind me, what is the penalty for adultery under Islam? Especially as a self-confessed adulterer. Now, it doesn't bother me one whit a tittle if he'd had affairs with 100 women. So that's him. So should Princess Diana do likewise? Other people gave him plaudits. He at least spoke honestly about what he'd done. He acknowledged this. Kanga, yeah, Kanga as in kangaroo. She's his Australian mistress from the late 70s. And a sort of a rival of Camilla Parker Bowles, but she was from a very wealthy Melbourne family. She had a sort of broken engagement. Her mother put her on the plane to London and flew with her to Hong Kong to make sure she got on a plane for the last leg to London. That was that. And in those days, nobody would question an Australian's right to live and work in the United Kingdom. She married some lord, I don't remember his name. She had some children with him. Then she even set up a shop called Kanga, selling high-end clothing or interior design. I don't know what it was. And supposedly, by the 80s, she became an ally of Princess Diana because they were both against Camilla Parker Bowles. There was no other way that Prince Charles was going to marry Kanga. She wanted to carry on with him somewhat, but she went a bit loony towards the end and making all these confessional tapes about her love affair with Prince Charles. So that's Kanga. I forget the woman's proper name. She was gorgeous, and Prince Charles being obviously visiting Australia in 1980, and Kanga was often going to the press about it and saying the idea is me to meet a suitable fiancé there. Do you ever think that the Duke of York will be indicted for his escapades? It's possible the Duke of York, that's Prince Andrew, will be indicted as in court of trial before a jury in the United States in relation to allegations pertaining to his friendship with the late and unlamented Jeffrey Epstein and what Jeffrey Epstein got up to. Dale. Dale is what? Kanga, is that her real name? I have no idea if Prince Andrew is guilty. Deserves the same presumption as guilt as anybody else. So back to Prince Charles and Princess Diana. So then what's going to happen? Princess Diana, surrounded with these people, her own flunkies, her hangers-on, the groupies, who are saying, oh darling, you're such a big victim, I feel so sorry for yourself. She liked kind of lovies, actors and musicians, Elton John, George Michael and so on, quite like gay men, nothing wrong with that, just a neutral observation, and seemed to be quite trendy and really fed her delusion. So she's kind of a mawkish, self-pitying sort of a person. She was born incredibly lucky into a very wealthy family, very well-connected family, never wanted for anything. Honestly, her childhood wasn't that bad, but just always felt so sorry for herself. She had two completely healthy children, could be far, far worse. She went on that famous trip to India and sat in front of the Taj Mahal on her own. Oh, and this monument to love, and I'm on my own, and blah, blah, blah. I believe Princess Diana might have been murdered for sure. Might have, for sure. Come on, make your mind up. Well, I don't think she was. I mean, I can't prove a negative. I'm not certain that she was, but I think it's highly improbable. So she was asked in some interviews, should you get divorced? She said, well, maybe, but what about the children? But anyway, the marriage was effectively over. Was she going to start carrying on with other men? So then in, I think it was November 95, she gave her interview. Should she give this interview or not? But she did to, who's that British Pakistani journalist? I forget his name. It'll come to me. Hussein or something like that is his surname. No, Martin Bashir, that's it. And which she acknowledged that she'd been adulterous as well, and said there were three of us in this marriage. It was always a little crowded. This very rehearsed line, as in Prince Charles was effectively married to Camilla Parker Bowles, the one he always loved, but didn't marry, felt he couldn't marry for obvious reasons. And Diana wanted to be Queen of Hearts, which is quite a mushy phrase, and thought that her husband was unsuitable as king. So really unhelpful. Should she have said that or not? Did that diminish her standing? Generated some sympathy. Other people felt it was nauseating, it was disloyal, but he'd gone first and admitted adultery. Was she hitting back? It transfixed the United Kingdom, to a lesser extent the United States. So much of the Anglosphere was tuned in to that interview. That was that, and that was 95. So they had begun divorce proceedings, and she had Anthony Julius, the solicitor, representing her. I don't know who Prince Charles's legal team was, and she got a lot of money, something like £20 million. This is sort of 1996 values. And she got to live in Kensington Palace, an apartment in Kensington Palace for the rest of her life, various things. She was Princess of Wales, but no longer to be called Her Royal Highness. The Princess of Wales, simply Diana, Princess of Wales. And she was no longer mentioned in press of the royal family. Ooh, big deal. Harry Hewitt takes after her. Well, yeah. I think he slightly got the worst of both parents. Prince Harry was their son's going to Eton, and indeed it happened. Do you think the Queen ever accepted Princess Diana? Yes, I do. She obviously wanted to be a success. Princess Diana. Accepted Princess Diana. Yes, I do. She obviously wanted to be a success. And the Christmas 1981, just after they got married, she's pregnant, several months pregnant, and I don't know what she was throwing a strop about, but Princess Diana threw herself down the stairs. The Queen's face is said to have gone white. The Princess Diana could have killed herself, could have done severe damage to her unborn child. Some loving mother that is, to do that. And she was always banging on about her children. All right, maybe she was a half-decent mother saying, oh, well, I hug my boys when I put them to bed. Wow, amazing. A mother who hugs her children. She must be the only one in the world to do that. But did you actually change their nappies and get up at 3 o'clock in the morning to heat up milk? Or did the nanny do it? Did you actually scrub behind the U-bend and do a lot of housewives did? No, your life was incredibly easy. You will have done some of the tasks of mothering, perhaps the more rewarding ones, but cry me a river. Honestly, your life wasn't that bad. It could have been far, far worse. But cry me a river. Honestly, your life wasn't that bad. It could have been far, far worse. So she's a patron of these charities. Her job is to doll herself up, be the belle of the ball, to go to some charity dinner to raise money, and then she gets cheered to the rafters as though she's a particularly generous person. Of all the tens of millions of pounds of taxpayers' money she was given, how much of it did she give to noble causes? I think diddly squat, not a brass farthing, if I'm right. There she was going to Angola, meeting these children who'd had their limbs blown off by landmines, people who were quadruple amputees, people quadriplegic, you know, paralyzed in the neck down. You met children being born with HIV, stuff like that. And all you could do, the only one you felt sorry for was yourself. Wouldn't that put it into perspective and see that actually your travails are not that terrible? It could have been far, far worse. You are a princess, for goodness sake. Hello, George, looking good. Thanks there, straight white British Protestant. So what was the next step for the Princess of Wales? So she began in the mid-90s having relationships with other men. There's that British Pakistani heart surgeon, I've forgotten the chap's name. He's not really a looker. James Hewitt was long gone, and then there was Dodi Fayed. So Dodi Fayed, he's Egyptian on his father's side. I can't remember which Arab nationality his mother is. He'd grown up in the United Arab Emirates. He'd been to, was it that school in Switzerland? Was it Le Rosey? And then he went to Sandhurst, as in the Royal Military Academy. But I don't think he actually ever became an army officer. I don't think he actually passed out. So he's a playboy. If you ever watch Chariots of Fire, that fantastic 1981 film, you'll see he's credited as like a first assistant director, Dodi Fayed. So his father is Muhammad Fayed, an Egyptian. When someone dies, they automatically achieve sainthood, Diane Malloy, especially if they die young, suddenly, martyrdom, some people said. She was likened to Princess Grace of Monaco. Hello, Paddy, Rocky, William the Great. Hello, Rocky. Dodi Fayed was a playboy He just hung around London, wherever else, had loads of money, had never achieved anything in his life, educationally, professionally, in his personal life. And not a bad guy, but really a deadbeat adult. So his father, Muhammad Fayad, was born in Alexandria, the son of a teacher, somehow managed to be very wealthy, spent some time in Haiti, somehow conning Papa Doc Duvalier, which is a very dangerous thing to rip off Jean-Claude Duvalier. Fab film, Chariots of Fire, yes, I found it scintillating, watched it many times. And the themes to it by John Vangelis are just magisterial. He was the first cousin of the murdered Saudi journalist Jamal Khashoggi. What bad luck the family has. You're right, that's it. I think Khashoggi on his mother's side. The Khashoggis are Saudis of Turkish origin, as in Kashukchi, as in spoonmaker in Turkish. Why do you think Father Fayed believed his son was murdered? It's far more exciting to believe that. Diana and the England rugby captain had a fling. Oh, that's true, actually. Interesting. So coming back to the Fayeds, so then Muhammad Fayed put Al in front of his name, Al Fayed, to suggest they're from upper class origins, which is a lie. He's given at least 3 different years of birth. There are more people of Irish descent than in England, correct? Were there only about 60 million people in England? The United States has got 320 million people, and that's that. So, and rather depends what you mean by Irish descent, because so many people are going back and forth between England and Ireland. But anyway, back to the Fayeds. So Dodi Fayed in 1907 was actually engaged to a young Canadian woman, and then he began some sort of liaison with Princess Diana, and so that engagement to that Canadian was broken off super fast, and she's given money to just shut up and go away. And that was that. So they were in their super yacht off the south coast of France, and Princess Diana and her 2 children came along, and they're filmed by the paparazzi, the boys swimming and on their jet skis, and it was obviously front page news. Princess Diana had put on a bit of weight. So her relationship with Dodi Fayed was only about 3 weeks. But anyway, so she went to Paris, the Ritz Hotel, which the Fayeds owned actually, interesting about Dodi. Very interesting. I'm glad you find it gripping. So they stayed in the Ritz Hotel. It was the 30th of August, 1997, if memory serves you right. And they had their dinner, and their driver drank quite a lot. And obviously being followed by the press all over the place. You are public figures. You've chosen to be the public limelight. You could stay in a super yacht. You could stay in a gated community or some estate. You could go to Monaco, where the police will close down paparazzi, will grab the cameras off them, arrest them. But no, you know, we have a right to look at people, public figures, people who live off public money. We have a right to take your photo. You can take my photo. That's it. So anyway, they're followed by the press pack, several cars, and so they sped through the tunnel. I wonder if Dodi ordered them to. General Wellington and Napoleon Wars was Celtic too. Well, Wellington's family, they lived in Ireland for centuries. The surname was actually Colley, then they changed it to Wellesley. It's distant related to George Colley, this Fine Gael politician of the 1960s. So back to Princess Diana. And they went under Pont de l'Alma tunnel under the River Seine, and that's when things went wrong, and the driver crashed into a pillar at top speed. Dodi was killed almost instantaneously. Princess Diana was very badly injured. So were the other people in the car, the driver and the bodyguard. So I actually found Fayed interesting. Is the press suppressed in Monaco? Well, the thing is, there's not really much of a press because it's such a tiny place, like about 2 square miles. I know they print newspapers, their own. The French ones are there because it's surrounded by France. And the internet and the media, they can't really block that. Monaco, the only railway station, you go to one door, you're in France. You go to the other door, you're in Monaco. But journalists, your activities, following people, harassing them in any way, you will be shut down. The police use a lot of force against you. So that's why some of these super wealthy like it. How right is David Icke? I don't really know. I don't want to discuss David Icke. So the first headline was Dodi dead, Diana injured. And so she was rushed to hospital, and then she died some hours later. I don't really know what was going on medically, exactly the nature or extent of her injuries. And the French police came along and they arrested lots of the paparazzi, some of them who'd been snapping away furiously at the dying Diana. Should they have intervened, tried to do first aid? Do they know what they're doing? You can make it worse if you don't know what you're doing. I suppose they felt it was the photo of the century. I know that sounds sick, but someone will say, well, that's going to sell, and it does. I suppose perhaps they haven't quite worked out if she was dead or simply wounded at that stage. The Pont de l'Alma was reopened to traffic some hours later. Now, Mohammad Fayed, he went over and he was very quickly pushing this theory that they were murdered and that the investigation was rushed, wasn't carried out properly. They should have closed the tunnel. Why was the tunnel reopened a few hours later? Because people need to get to work, all right? It's not going to bring back your son for one moment closing the tunnel. Do you think the Secret Service used a strobe light to blind the tunnel driver? I will come on to that. Diana mentioned a letter that the royal family were planning to kill her in the car crash, for example. I bet you had no idea. Okay, I'll address that in time. Because closing the tunnel is not going to bring back your son for one moment, and there are millions of people who live in Paris, and we need to get the traffic going. Okay, so you carry out an investigation, and you need to reopen it fast. It's a crucial artery of the Paris road system. Off-duty doctor gave her CPR. So the thing is, suppose that there was a blinding flash in the tunnel a moment before the car crashed. Hello, Watkin talking about Martin Bashir, and there was a white Fiat Uno that was behind them that I think overtook them and sped off. And that white Fiat Uno, that car has never been located. I don't know if they knew, whether they didn't know what the registration was. There are lots of white Fiat Unos in France, and what else about it? I mean, maybe the CCTV perhaps wasn't good enough to give us the name of that. Give us the registration number of that, and who drove it. Was it deliberate? Was it accidental? I mean, they didn't come forward, whoever drove that car. So the strobe lighting thing. Now, Richard Tomlinson was in MI6, the British External Intelligence Agency. Richard Tomlinson, read his book, The Big Breach. It's absolutely riveting. I read it cover to cover thrice. But he says there was a plan to assassinate Slobodan Milosevic, the Serbian leader, in Switzerland, when he was going for some negotiations in the early 90s. And the idea was, when he's driving through an alpine tunnel, to flash a light so bright that it would temporarily blind the driver, and as he was dazzled, he'd crash into a pillar. Now, Tomlinson just saw that. He didn't obviously keep the document, doesn't have any copy of it, but vaguely remembered that. Was it reheated towards to assassinate Diana something? That's one possibility. I don't think so. Okay, so if it was a crime, what's the motive? You want to kill Dodi and Diana. Why? Why do you want to kill them? There's this idea, oh, the family are so bigoted they couldn't stand the idea of her marrying a Muslim. Was she engaged to him? No. Okay, was she pregnant? No. And the autopsy confirmed that. The other thing is, yes, she put on a lot of weight. That doesn't prove she's pregnant. She'd only had a relationship for about 3 weeks. It wouldn't be long enough of a pregnancy for her to put on any significant weight in 3 weeks anyway. And in fact, she'd been menstruating the week before she died, as one of her confidants, her female friends, had confirmed. So this has been investigated ad infinitum by the former head of the Metropolitan Police, and Mohammed Al-Fayed. He has said that Prince Philip is a Nazi and he murdered Princess Diana and blah, blah, blah. Tomlinson is now a helicopter in Africa. Do you believe the establishment is still at power in the UK, whatever it is, for example, a possible military coup? Well, not really. The establishment doesn't really get what it wants. So, yes, apparently a coup was talked about by Huey Green in the 70s, who felt that Harold Wilson was making the United Kingdom communist, and Huey Green, this entertainer, actually the father of Paula Yates, though she didn't find that out too much later. Huey Green, he was in touch with the commander of the British Army, the Rhine, as in the British Army in West Germany. Would you do this? He said, don't be so silly. Or going back to conspiracy stories about Edward and Mrs. Simpson in the 30s. Well, Edward VIII abdicated for several reasons. There's a whole another video, that one. Was he pushed out to some extent? Yes, because they thought he was a Nazi sympathizer. He also wanted to marry someone who's deeply unsuitable. He did have some establishment people on his side as well. This is not as clear-cut as some people presented it. So it turns out that the head of security at the Paris Ritz, he was a man drinking way too much. He was also on the payroll of MI6. So MI6, that's the British Secret Service, was there. Good to make a video on Edward VIII. So I don't think so, and there was no good reason to want to kill her. It didn't even succeed initially. She died some hours later. And indeed, one of the guys in the back of the car, he survived. They weren't wearing seatbelts. The driver was drunk. They were going way too fast. If they're going within the speed limit, if you flash that light, they still wouldn't have crashed. If you hadn't been going too fast, they still wouldn't have crashed. And if you hadn't drunk alcohol, they still wouldn't have crashed. And if there was seatbelts, they still wouldn't have died. And why? There's no good reason to kill them. And Prince Harry and Prince William find this mortally offensive, that to say that their father murdered their mother. They were up in Balmoral, and the news had to be broken to them. And the thing is, if it's proved that the royal family did it, that would be the end of the royal family. So I think it's absolute nonsense to say that they bumped her off. Dirty tricks, MI6 joking. God bless the security services. Yeah, I really don't think that they did kill him anyway. So some very excitable people think they're very clever and very courageous by constantly promulgating these theories. Hello, Colleen Kenny. So I don't think there's any good reason to think that Princess Diana was assassinated by MI6 or any other person. So that's that. Mohammed Fayed got his cheapies out of saying this. He owned Harrods, that very estimable department store in London. He was an incredibly vain man, a bit of a Donald Trump figure for his rampant dishonesty and limitless vanity, and had himself known as Lion by security guards. Loved paying people off, loved bribing politicians like Neil Hamilton, What else about Mohammed Fayed? Apparently treated the staff very badly. I knew someone who used to work there. I think it was drinking and driving accident too. Not surprising, people get killed in car accidents all the time. Everyone knows someone who's died in a car accident. 2% of all the world's deaths are road traffic accidents. So Fayed, he had these royal warrants. If you sell a significant amount of whatever it is to the royal family, bed sheets, breakfast cereal, shoes, anything, then you get royal warrants. By appointment purveyor of breakfast cereals to Her Majesty the Queen, or you can get for the Prince of Wales and so on. But you have to give them a discount. They are such cheapskates, the royal family, despite being multimillionaires and getting money off the rest of us. So those eventually taken away, and the royal family said, oh, it's because he doesn't do much business with us anymore, and he no longer owns Harrods. So that was him, a man who was repeatedly rejected for a British passport on the basis that he was not of good character. He organised a break-in to the safety deposit box of his arch nemesis, Tiny Rowland, who was a very major figure in the London business world for decades. So really that's the end of that, and there have been so many exhaustive investigations and court cases, and people will believe what they want to believe and just say it's an establishment cover-up. We can't prove to the contrary, but I don't know of any remotely convincing evidence that Princess Diana and or Dodi were killed, that no one had a wish to do it. That's how the royals are. So there we are. Princess Diana was not murdered, and